Sony TX650 digital microphone. So, videography. I film a fair bit of commercial work, but the majority of my videography is weddings, and it's the one thing I actually started out. My whole business started with the world of wedding films, and I still do it to this day and absolutely love it. Sound. Sound is key. If you get sound wrong or you ruin the sound, you end up ruining any sort of video work that you've managed to capture. With good sound, you will be forgiven for any bad video work. It does sound like a funny thing to say, but any little mistakes or shots that are out of focus, as long as the sound is good, you'll be fine. That's glossing over quite a lot, to be honest, but what I'm trying to say is get your sound right first time. Now, I use a lot of the Rode video mics and generally use them on top of the cameras. I also then put a little lapel mic into a microphone inside, say, the groom's pocket, or anyone that's doing a reading or a talk or a speech later in the day. It's a bit fiddly, but it works. A lot of my videography colleagues have been telling me to get these TX650s. John Ashley, if you've looked at the What's in My Videography Bag interview I did with him a couple of months ago, you'll see that he has several of these and has gone on to buy, I think, 5 or 6. Anyone that he knows during what certain stage of the day is going to talk, he is going to mic them up. Other than the bride, everyone gets one of these. I can see why, because I've heard the sound quality of his and I'm very impressed. I've clearly gone ahead and bought one. I'll show you exactly what's in the box and then show you my results that I got with the weddings that are coming up for me this weekend. So we can break that open there, and there we have it. Don't know how well you can see that on the overhead camera. It's very neatly packaged. I'm actually quite impressed with that. And I can just take that out of there. Now, it does come with a lot more than just this, obviously, but first impressions are it is tiny. It's very small, and that's kind of what you want. When you're going to hide this on someone's person, you've just got a little clip there, which I'll show you on the overhead camera, and that little clip is what you would ideally have on show. So you'd get that, clip it into there, and that's all you'll see. Now, this is straight out of the box. I have not charged it, I have not done anything, but I'm sure it will have some power. Okay, initial settings configured. Hopefully you can see that up there. There's not much battery life, but I do just want to quickly give it a little test so you can compare. Here in the studio, I've only got a Tascam recorder linked up to a little microphone, the Rode Video Micro, which is just hanging above my head here out of shot. But let's just see if I can get this up and running. So you've got the buttons just there: volume, back, home, option, and then obviously to skip tracks, play and pause, and your record button just there. I've hit record and I'm going to put it onto hold. So in theory now you've got a little red light on there, which I'm hoping you can see, which is letting me know that it's recording, which it is. I've just got this straight out of the box, and now what you are hearing is the sound from this microphone. This is the sound from the overhead Rode Video Micro, and this is the sound from the microphone that's on my person. This is the sound from the overhead Video Micro. This is the sound that you're hearing now from the TX650. I already know the quality of this is really good, but it's in a real world situation and I want to show you how it performs, what my opinion is of it, especially on a wedding day or a high pressure situation where I just need to make sure it's on, it's running, and I can forget about it. As I understand it, it's got 16 gig of onboard memory, which is more than enough, its own USB battery, so I can just charge it up the night before and away I go. As always, not going to bore you with the specs, you can find those online. I'll put links to it down below, but for now, let me go and see what this can do, and I'll report back in a few seconds with my findings. Okay, this thing is a lifesaver. This week just gone, I used this at a wedding. It was an outdoor ceremony, which always makes me a little nervous, especially with sound, because you never know what the wind or weather's going to do. And because of this, I got away with what essentially was a nightmare scenario. Without this, the audio would have been terrible. So it was a lovely wedding, lovely setting, English countryside, on a farm, wonderful place, a lovely place to get married. First time at the venue, so I had to have a little scout out before myself, but having looked at how it was going to work, not only was it going to be difficult with regards to the ceremony, being that it was outdoors, but in England we have to come undercover for the vows, which was a very dark barn type shelter. And obviously for the rest of the ceremony they were going to be out in the bright sunshine. So that from a video perspective is always hard work. I had two cameras, but it still made it quite difficult. And sound-wise, as I say, you never know what's going to happen. The wind can pick up, it can rain, and both happened. Both happened at this wedding, and it was a bit of a nightmare for this ceremony. So it rained. It really started to rain, and halfway through the ceremony, not only did they come inside just to say their official vows, they then went back outside for what would have been the exchange of rings and a reading, but that didn't quite happen. The rain came, everyone had to run under cover, so we were all squashed into this tiny little shelter, a little barn shelter. The acoustics were not good. We had to move around quite a bit, and then, being England, it rained but the sun was shining, so that made a weird glisten effect. And during the vows, when they were undercover, the sunlight coming in was so bright it made it very difficult. So I'm going to quickly show you now exactly what I would have had to put up with regards to sound and the echo and everything else that was going on in this shadow, and then what I actually got with this. First clip you'll hear is from the Rode Video Mic Pro on top of my GH5. The second clip is exact same footage, but with this for sound. I will say with this, I actually changed quite a few of the settings. There's a few extra functions this thing's got that I've completely disabled for a cleaner audio. Listening back to that first bit of footage that I did when I first opened this a second ago, it sounded a little bit muddy, a little bit underwater. I think that's just a few of the things that they've added to this that you just don't need, not if you want clean audio. So I'll talk you through those settings very shortly. Check out this clip. I've got the groom and the bride pretty much saying the same line from their vows, just so you can compare. Now this was in the top pocket just there on the breast of the groom, and I did boost it for the bride by 8 decibels, just to give you an idea that even though it's still a couple of feet away, the audio is really nice and clean from it. So the first sound you'll hear is from the Video Mic Pro on camera, which is about 2 meters away, and then obviously I'll replay the clip with this as well.
With this ring I marry you, and bind my life to yours. It is a symbol of my eternal love, my everlasting friendship, and the promise of all my tomorrows. With this ring I marry you, and bind my life to yours. It is a symbol of my eternal love, my everlasting friendship, and the promise of all my tomorrows.
With this ring I marry you and bind my life to yours. It is a symbol of my eternal love, my everlasting friendship, and the promise of all my tomorrows. With this ring I marry you and bind my life to yours. It is a symbol of my eternal love, my everlasting friendship, and the promise of all my tomorrows.
So as you can see, the sound quality from this really is superb. It gets you out of any sort of tight jams, especially if you're in a church where the vicar or the priest says no, you have to stand at the back. If you're outdoors and you need something where you know you've just got nice clean audio coming, especially when it picks up the bride quite clearly and the registrar or the vicar or the priest or anyone else stood quite close by. And there's another shot in the rain. You'll see the rain starting to come now in this shot, and the audio I'm getting and the audio I'm going to use is actually from this. And even though the groom is stood about 1.5 meters away from the person doing the reading, the audio is still really nice and clean. I had a second microphone near them, the Video Mic Pro, which is also what I use in the studio because I do like the sound from that. But with the wind, even though it had the fluffy dead cat on it to get rid of wind noise, it still gets through, and this held up against the wind noise a lot better. So just to quickly, you can see what that sounds like.
I would love you as the iceberg loves the ship, and the passengers love the lifeboat. And the lifeboat loves the teeth of the sperm whale, and the sperm whale loves the flavour of naval uniforms. I will love you as we grow older, which has just happened, and has happened again, and happened several days ago continuously, and then several years before that, and will continue to happen as the spinning hands of every clock and the flipping pages of every calendar mark the passage of time, except for the clocks that people have forgotten to wind, and the calendars that people have forgotten to place in a highly visible area.
So as I just said, this thing is a lifesaver. I'm definitely going to invest in more of these. I do have the UX560, which is a slightly cheaper sound recorder, but you have to use the lapel. Well, you don't have to use a lapel mic, but a lapel mic works better on them. It's a bit bulkier, generally goes in the inside pocket, and it's just another point of contact with the lapel mic that could fall off or could get damaged or cause interference. This just makes life so much easier. Everything's fully rechargeable, ready to go. You've got a nice little pouch to keep them safe, even if you wanted to clip it into the pouch and clip it on. You've got the lock and hold button on the side, so once it starts recording it can't be disturbed. Fully rechargeable battery inside, which I had it running for 45 minutes to an hour doing a record, and I don't even think it dropped by 10%. So the battery on these is great. I then transferred the sound over onto my laptop so I could have a little play around with the files while I was at the wedding. Left it there for about 20 minutes plugged in, and it actually charged itself up ready for the next wedding anyway. So I think this is something that I will just charge up after I've used it at the wedding, and away I go, ready for the next one. I won't bore you too much, but there's a few settings that I think are worth noting and things that you will definitely want to turn off. I'll try and show you on the overhead camera, but I'm not sure where you're going to get it. Recording folder you don't need to touch, but scene select, you've got different options with shirt pocket, meeting mode, lecture, voice notes, interview. Your own scene, you can change things, my scene 1 and 2. I turned everything off. I think it's set to shirt pocket once you do it, but I've turned everything off for that one. The other one of note that I looked at was recording mode, and I set the recording mode to LPCM 44.1 kilohertz. That's on a recommendation from John Ashley, and he knows his sound. I didn't question it, I've used it, and I straight away found the sound quality to be much cleaner, crisper and clearer. Now the other main function you want to change is mic sensitivity. I've got it set to low, and again I think that helped just with the clean audio. And there's also the recording filter, which again we switched off completely. Those are the three main things to look out for, and it turns off all the little extra things that are switched on out the box from Sony. Now with those switched off, I'm going to put this back on just so you can hear what it's like. So obviously now that is sat closer. I do recommend putting it a little bit lower so it's sat on a shirt pocket or a jacket pocket ideally, but even there, right underneath the chin, it's a much nicer sound. It's much cleaner, much crisper. If you go back and just compare it to the clips earlier on when I first took it out of the box, I think you'll agree this sounds a lot better. The only other thing that I didn't show you in the box was the cable. It comes with its own USB cable for charging, for data transfer, and there's just a bunch of instructions and lots of warranty things in the box, nothing of interest. But I do like this little pouch that you get. It's quite a nice touch from Sony that they do include things like this in the box. So it's tiny, discreet, sounds great. Here in the UK is £88, I believe it's still under $100 in the US. If you're recording sound in a professional environment in any way, shape or form, these are great to add in. I do in fact think I'm going to use these even when I'm doing any talking head commercial work. I'll use these over a lapel mic along with a overhead boom mic. So I've got that scratch audio and a nice bit of ambient sound, but these will be what I use for any dialogue. I've got a little short film that I'm working on as well, which I'm going to be using these for some discrete footage. I'll be able to film with a long lens from a distance, mic up the actors, and in theory you'll be able to get some nice clean audio out of this without making it obvious that you're filming anything or making any sort of movie. So, gets a thumbs up from me. I'll put a link in the description below to Amazon where I got mine from. They were actually the best deal at the time, but if anyone sees any of a really good deal or really good price anywhere, tell us in the comments below, because I think I'm going to end up buying quite a few more of these. Thanks again for watching. I hope you found it informative. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon as well if you want to be kept informed of our next videos. We've got quite a bit more coming up in the world of videography, so do keep an eye out for that. Until then, I will catch you in the next one.